With fewer than 500 hours to go before the final vote in the 2020 presidential election, President Trump is back on the campaign trail. And in a Florida rally the day we record this, he was all over the board, rattling off a long laundry list of accomplishments and intentions for his administration. This episode of Bill Whittle Now, I'd like to talk about whether or not the president needs to focus and if it's even possible to do so. And Bill, especially, let's just assume it were possible to do so. For starters, if you were to be guiding the president's campaign, would there be a focus that you think he needs to zero in on like a laser for these final, like I said, fewer than 500 hours?
It doesn't very often happen on this show, but I was watching that rally just as we were taping it 15 minutes after it ended. And my advice to him would be keep doing exactly this. I thought he was fantastic. And the reason I thought he was fantastic was because of the contrast in the energy level and the enthusiasm level with Joe Biden. The fact that he did the whole thing impromptu, or at least it seemed to be impromptu. He certainly wasn't reading a prepared statement. Everybody was fired up, and his energy level was so high that it just makes me realize that debate performance, he must have been really quite ill, I would imagine. I didn't think he looked very good then. But boy, he was just bouncing around the stage, and you know, political rally is about excitement, and the excitement poll is a landslide for Trump.
So it's one thing to be able to stand up in front of a group of your base supporters who, lined up to be able to come and see you speak and loved everything that drops from your lips. It's another thing to communicate a message to a larger electorate across the country, whether that be in public appearances at the White House or elsewhere, interviews on TV, and even advertisements. Would you recommend the same sort of approach of kind of it was like a fire hose of, look, this is everything I've done and this is everything I'll do, rather than kind of narrowing it down to, it's the economy, stupid, or something like that?
Well, even if it is the economy, stupid, he had the best economy in American history prior to the COVID infection. And as he said during the speech and has said before, I don't know how many days before the actual election, but I think it's at least 3 or 4, we're going to get the fall quarter figures, and it looks like American economic growth is going to be 35%. It's not 3.5%, 35%. That was the number I heard. Now, needless to say,
quarter over quarter or year over year? What are you talking about?
Third quarter growth will be 35%. That's what I heard, which makes sense given how suppressed the numbers were based on the COVID thing. But as Trump pointed out in his rally today in Florida, we're very close to setting a new stock market record. This economy is coming back whether the Democrats want it to or not, and makes you wonder what would happen if they were to set the people of California free, for example, or any of these other states that are still locked down. But I thought he was great. I really did. I thought he was great. And you can say, well, he's great for his supporters, but Joe Biden and Kamala Harris had an event today, and nobody was there. I mean, like, the reporter was looking around going, am I in the wrong location? So to the degree that you can say that, first of all, he's the incumbent and he doesn't have to focus on a message. He's got a great economy, had a great economy. Everybody knows it. It's coming back fast. He's got 3 or 4 nominations for the Nobel Peace Prize. He's brokered historic agreements there, moved the embassy. He's bringing troops home. He's listing all of these achievements because he can. It's the job of the challenger to convince people that things are awful. And when President Trump is in a good mood, and he was in a good mood today, he is a salesman. And what he was selling was optimism and energy and fun. And I was right there. I'll take $20 worth.
I would imagine there's another kind of benefit of that approach to just kind of blasting out your accomplishments, and that is it gives your opponents and the mainstream media but I repeat myself, it gives your opponents a hard target to aim at. I mean, if you came out with one message where you said, you know, I'm going to have free charter schools for everybody, or just some single thing, then they could dwell completely on debunking that or challenging it or saying you were lying about it or whatever. But if you just kind of machine gun them with all of these different accomplishments, any effort that they have to fact check that or to refute it comes across as scattered itself and will fail to get traction.
That's all true, but I don't agree with the assumption behind it, you know, or at least the inference behind it that all of this stuff is garbage and he's putting out so much garbage, there's no chance to slow down enough to tell people that he's lying about everything. The fact is he's got those achievements and he listed them. And when you bring up the media and fact checking and all the rest of it, the other thing you have to understand too is that Donald Trump has very few opportunities to speak to the American people directly without somebody telling them what he meant to say. And for him to get up in front of that rally, I think there were 96,000 people watching live. And that was just on the one channel. He has a chance to say and to basically list his accomplishments without being edited. And so if he's got a lot of accomplishments, Scott.
So at the same time that all this is going on, there's nothing in the mainstream media but reports of the growing gap between Joe Biden and Donald Trump in polling that shows that, you know, in swing states and in every place that it matters and in many other places where it doesn't even matter, that Biden is not only doing well, in some cases up by double digits, but he's doing better than, you know, even if there were to be a misjudgment on the scale of the 2016 misjudgment by the media, that Biden could weather that essentially and could still win the election. Donald Trump didn't sound like he was a guy who thought that Joe Biden was ahead.
No, he did not. And I suspect he's probably a lot more correct than the polls are.
At one point he said, "This is the poll," meaning the crowd. He was trying to get the cameras to turn around and show the audience.
Right. Arizona is in play. If Joe Biden and Kamala Harris go to Arizona and there's nobody there, then that says something. And that's the exact same thing that we saw in 2016. Way down in the polls among registered voters, not likely voters, way down in the polls among registered voters. But as I said before, Trump was elected by unlikely voters. And the crowds apparently that he's getting now are bigger than the crowds that he got in 2016. He's got a lot of people walking away from the Democratic Party. He's got a lot of people who are going to vote for him just because of the Supreme Court nominees, if nothing else. And I think what's really happening with these polls is that I think that the Democrats and the media, but I repeat myself now, are just all the way in on this. And look, it's effective. This is an effective strategy. To say that Biden has a 15-point lead it has an effect on your support for the president, well, for some people anyway, and I'm one of them. It's depressing and it's demoralizing, and that's what it's supposed to do. It's called FUD in business. FUD, you know, when you're spreading FUD or you're a FUDster, you're spreading fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And that's what these polls are designed to do, is they're designed to spread fear, uncertainty, and doubt among Republican voters.
They're not reporting public opinion, they're directing public opinion, as they say.
Correct. And they're very effective. They're very effective. It is in the nature of Trump's base to not pay much attention to those things. But what I saw today was what I wanted to see, and that was just if nothing else, in an hour today, Donald Trump exerted 3 or 4 times as much energy than Joe Biden has exerted in 2 years. And if you can't tell the difference between these two, there's something wrong with you. I saw Joe Biden's, yesterday he had a fun day where he did all kinds of wonderful gaffes and talked about a $15 million minimum wage and all the rest of it. But today, again, this event in Arizona and some other event, he had a drive-in rally where
Like
you
at a
get to stay
drive-in movie theater?
Well, yeah, it was a drive-in rally where people stay in their cars so that they don't catch the COVID-19 virus. And battleground state, the Democratic contender, and do you know how many cars showed up? 30. So if you got 30 cars for Joe Biden and 30,000 people for Donald Trump, that is what matters. People will vote or not vote based on their enthusiasm. And one of the things that the polls are showing that I do believe is accurate is that young people are not real excited about this election. They traditionally vote Democrat, of course. Life hasn't had a chance to beat the stupid out of them yet. And but in this election, they're not excited. They're not excited about Joe Biden, and they're not excited about Kamala Harris, and they certainly don't like Trump. But that's not the same thing. It's not that their hatred of Trump won't make them go and stand in line for an hour, but people's love of Trump and the feeling that the country is under terminal assault by the left, that'll get people to go out and stand, literally figuratively, the crawl over broken glass to vote for him kind of thing. And that's what wins elections.
Final question. If the president were to call you today and say, hey, Bill, I need you out there on the stump for me. I need you to go to, 13 states and speak at rallies on my behalf because I can't be everywhere at once. What would be the sort of message that you would bring? Would you just repeat what he said in Florida, or would you say something different in these final weeks before the election?
I would repeat what he said in Florida, and I would do it in as close to the same tone as I could possibly get. What Trump did today was not just tout his own achievements. He was mocking Biden a lot, mocking the news media, mocking everybody, and he was doing it with such fun that there was none of this malice in it. And if you can hit that spot, that happy warrior spot, that kind of Ronald Reagan kind of I will not use the youth and inexperience of my opponent against him kind of thing, that's dynamite stuff. So everything would depend on how much time I had. But the notes that he was striking and the notes that got the best response in the comments section, because I was watching the comment stream live, were the notes about things like, making America strong, bringing back manufacturing jobs, bringing troops home, all of this stuff.
He came close to coming into a focus at the end and I wrote these phrases down when he said them. I was driving for most of the time when he was speaking, so I couldn't take notes, and obviously wasn't reading the comments. But he boiled it down to three things at one time. He said, this election, when you vote for Republicans, you're voting for safe communities, great jobs, and a limitless future for all Americans. Yeah.
And I don't agree with the focus thing. And in most cases, I would. I'm a public speaker, and I understand how it works. And if I was staying on message on one or two specific messages is really kind of a wonky thing to do, and it's really the strategy that you have to people who you think may have a great case, but maybe not a whole lot of charisma. That scattershot approach, I saw as a strength and not a weakness today. I saw it I just saw it as, okay, it wasn't just a question of the data and the facts, although the facts were there to back up what he was saying. The attitude to me was such that there is so much winning going on, we just don't have time to cover it all.
Yeah, that was overall the approach, I think, of this barrage was basically, it didn't matter what he said. In effect, he was saying, I did it, I'm going to do it again.
He's saying something more important than that. Much, much, much more important than that. What he's saying is a week ago, I was in Walter Reed Hospital with COVID-19, and now I'm out here tap dancing on the stage. And I've got more energy and more enthusiasm and more pep and love for this country. And everything's going to be great and vaccines are coming and so on. So what he did today for me was he showed me that this guy post-COVID is enormously more animated, much sharper. He's basically improvising. He's got numbers. He's remembering the names of leaders, not like he's just complete platitudes, And I thought, great, this guy is back. And I think that's one thing that a lot of Trump supporters were a little worried about. I was worried about it, was the debate performance. I didn't think he was at his best. And looking back on it, I thought, wow, he doesn't seem like it was really him. Where's the levity? I suspect the levity was probably, being overwhelmed by Chinese communist viruses. But he went to Walter Reed, powered through there. And this is what I mean about it being not trivial. The most important thing that Trump did, I've been saying this from the moment that Trump was diagnosed with COVID-19, that Donald Trump's, the path of Donald Trump's COVID infection was going to be the American experience with COVID, like it or not, fair or not, that was going to be it. And that it was going to be, whether, again, fair or not, it was going to be perceived as a vindication for either the people who say, no, we need to lock everything down and stay locked down for another year, versus the people that say, no, the risk is relatively small. If you're at a risk group, don't go out. And for Donald Trump to come out with this kind of energy after having come down with COVID and being overweight and being, 78 or whatever he is?
74.
74. It's a sign that his version, and coincidentally my version, and most of the people listening to this version of the COVID risk is the one that played out. He's living evidence. That's what he is. He's living evidence, not only that he recovered from it, but that he has got a spring in his step and he's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and we're going to go out there and win. And this is, what this was, Scott. I wish I'd thought of it earlier. Could have saved ourselves 15 minutes of people's valuable time. This was a locker room pep talk. And it was a locker room pep talk to people who'd been told the whole time that Joe Biden had absolutely unreachable leads in the entire country and in the battleground states as well. So it's interesting that if all of those numbers are true, why so many people showed up. And I think he said they didn't have much more than a day's notice, something like that. Where are the people at the Biden rallies? There aren't any. Where are the people at the Trump rallies? Well, wherever Donald Trump says he's going to be, the next day there's going to be 40,000 people there and other people turned away. And that's not how people who think they're going to lose behave, on both the part of the president and on the part of his supporters.
Members of BillWhittle.com have made this program possible. In fact, we produce more than 40 new programs every month at BillWhittle.com because of the generosity of those members. In addition, they're generating their own content at the member-written blog. If you'd like to tap into all that, dip into the deep archive of years of material, as well as become a participant and even a writer at the member-written blog, go to that site today, BillWhittle.com, click the big green button, become a member. For Bill Whittle, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks for watching.